All this meeting is being recorded. Well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, I guess it is. I'm Laura Yoakum. I'm the director here at Wilson Public Library, and today we have another community chat, and I'm so happy that John Grinde and Laura Peltier have joined us from Cozad's VFW and the Legion, and they're here to talk about what they do and more. John.
Well, you should say welcome. Appreciate it, Laura, that you allowing us to spend this time with you. Thank you very much for attending and so forth. We'll run through a number of slides today, and if there are any questions you have, please, that really helps us in the presentation, okay? So we'll get going here. Once I get the control.
Once you get your mouse working.
Well.
Oh, did you turn it on? Is it? Yeah, it's moving.
It's working.
There we go.
Well, I guess I would entitle this something called The Past, the Present, and the Future, dealing with the VFW, American Legion, and the Auxiliary. And as far as introductions, Laura Peltier and myself will be representing the VFW. Scott Schmidt, who would be the commander of American Legion, will not be here today, so you're going to hear probably more on the VFW side than the American Legion side, but we'll go through the differences of that. Right offhand, do any of you out there have military ties?
My uncle was in the Air Force.
Okay.
My brother was in the National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
And we'll probably get to that point when we talk about the auxiliary and becoming a member of the auxiliary down the road during the presentation. For myself, I just want to let you know that as a way of introduction, I kind of come from a military family. My great-grandfather was in the Civil War. My two uncles on my dad's side were in World War I. They had a mule train that they did, carrying weapons up to the front. On my mom's side, my uncle Roy Lewis, he was captured in North Africa and was in the Stalag, a German camp, for a couple of years before he was liberated. And my brother-in-law was in Korea. I was in Vietnam. I have two nephews that were in the Navy. So I've got a little bit of that military aspect of it and so forth. And so Laura, introduce yourself.
So I'm part of the auxiliary, which means I wasn't actually any point in time active military. However, I have several grandparents that were World War II veterans. My father-in-law is a Vietnam veteran. My husband is an Iraqi freedom, Iraq War veteran, also a Purple Heart recipient. He's in the VFW, he's the commander, and that's how I kind of got involved with that. My son is now also U.S. Army. He's serving in Texas in the infantry. And then we have lots of family friends that are there too, but that's how I'm part of the auxiliary. Like he said, we'll go over how you can become members of that and what those eligibility requirements are.
So the auxiliary is, you're related to someone that was in the military.
Auxiliary is like assisting to the VFW.
Okay.
So assisting veteran, yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to start with the past, kind of a look back about the VFW, its origination and so on. And right offhand, the VFW started back in basically 1889 when the United States was involved with the Spanish-American War and fighting the Philippines and Guam and the Cuba area and so on. And after that conflict, a group of gentlemen decided to join together to help out our veterans, get back into their daily life and routine. And so that's what kind of started off the VFW way back in the, so it's about 130 years in operation. It is not a national or a government-run organization. It is a volunteer type organization. It was chartered, yes, by I think 1936 or something like that. But that just gives kind of a pat on the back to keep it up by the government, but it's not a government operation at all. And we have pretty much posts, again, throughout the United States. And the membership in the VFW right now is about 1.4 million, all right? And I do have to mention a couple of, it's always good, bad, and the ugly. With the VFW, there were two major conflicts within the organization. The one dealt during World War II. We had a number of Japanese soldiers that fought for the American side overseas and so forth, but they were not allowed to join the VFW. All right, so that was a sore spot. All right. Also, Vietnam veterans were not welcome to the VFW. They felt that Vietnam was a police action, and that since it was the first war the United States lost, they should not become members of the VFW. That brought a lot of anger and so forth among Vietnam vets, and probably one of the reasons why a lot don't join the VFW or the American Legion. It's kind of a dirty little secret, but you got to lay it out there. And so.
So they weren't willing to accept the Japanese Americans? Were
No.
they willing to accept like the African Americans or the indigenous groups, like the Navajo code
Yeah,
talkers?
that was not an issue. It was the Japanese Americans.
And what does VFW actually stand for?
Veterans of Foreign Wars, all right?
And those have changed, like those people that are eligible now for it, as long as you are a veteran of a foreign war.
That's a good point.
Women too?
Those things have passed,
That's
that
all past
attitude.
history, so just as a history of what has occurred in the organization, like he said, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mhm.
That's the negativity that is out there, that some people still have that stigma in their mind, thinking that, hey, I can't join, I'm not eligible. It's changed. Times change. We're always
So everyone's
women's
welcome.
right. Everyone that is a veteran of foreign war is welcome.
And then you had a picture of the post, the
in
headquarters in
Kansas City?
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Either of you been there?
No, I haven't. No. Maybe someday.
Well, I know that Kansas City has quite a few museums and things to different wars, so I just.
There is opportunities within the auxiliary and the VFW to attend different state functions as well as national events. The problem with that is there is a cost to that. Obviously, you're traveling, so there's flights, there's hotels, and being that we're just a community organization, we don't have a lot of funds to be able to send people, and I don't feel that it should be a person's responsibility to pay for that. So if you were a member and you wanted to go, I feel like that's something that should be covered by us. However, we have to have those funds available to be able to do that. So there is opportunity there, and we always try to work around the financial part of that. If somebody did say they had an interest in attending something like that, we would find a way to make it happen, whether it be fundraisers or something. We would work towards that.
And for the post here in Cozad, ours is VFW Post 890, and the actual name is, I can get this, I don't know what I kind of do wrong on that. There we go. It's Grant Cook Jr. Grant Cook was a Cozad graduate. I think in 1939 he graduated and went into the service, and unfortunately in 1941 at Pearl Harbor he was killed. I think he was on the USS Oklahoma where he passed away and so forth. But because of that, well, first of all, I want to say as a Cozad athlete, he was a very good athlete in a lot of sports and so forth. So anyway, upon his death, the folks who organized the VFW wanted it to be called the Grant Cook Jr. VFW Post. And
Does he still have family in the area?
not that we know of.
I would just like that slide to put in with our veteran things here at the library, because I don't think we have that information. Did not know that.
Easily.
Yeah, And that looks like a new sign you're gonna tell us
Yes,
about.
that's our new sign, and that's our post that was actually formed way back in like the 40s. And it finally got built probably in the 1950s and so forth. And so yes, that's our sign, and nobody really knows at this time that we have a VFW post in Cozad. A lot of folks have no clue that we exist.
So it's on
Honestly.
13th and N Street, so it's
Yeah,
right
the
over,
address is up there. It's right on the corner, 13.
so it's about a block west of the
Mhm.
old Cozad East.
And it's been there for.
No,
Right
Cozad
now,
North, it's
Just
Cozad
west,
North.
just west of the
Cozad
East
North.
Elementary.
No, North,
North Elementary.
North
yeah.
Elementary.
North
So, it's been there years and years and years and years. We didn't have real high visibility. There's just like a little sign above the door up here. And then there, of course, there's a flag post with a statue. And so a lot of people didn't know it was there. And just to reiterate that, we had a district meeting here in Cozad. They do rotate where the posts do their district meetings. And because we were hosting that, we usually do a meal. And so I'd gone all around town, and John had too. We'd gone to all these places, and we had gotten like the buns and food and stuff for this district meeting. Well, one of the places we had gone was Sunny's, and they had kindly donated us the buns for some sandwiches. Loved it. It was great. Picked them up, took them. Like, they didn't come to us. We picked them up, took them. Couple ladies from the district to come and for the meeting, come into town, and they didn't know where the building was. They got lost. And they thought, well, we'll stop at this local grocery store because surely they would know. And so they go in and they said, hey, where's your local VFW building? And they're like, I don't think we have one of those. And so these ladies were lost. And finally they did get a hold of one of us, and we told them the address to get there. But it just was funny to me because it was not even an hour before that we had picked up the buns for the VFW, but nobody knew that the VFW existed.
Now, do
So
you guys,
it's there.
rent out your facility? to
Yes, we do.
people?
Yes.
I'm just thinking,
Graduations.
for the library, we're always saying, well, have you checked here for graduations or whatever, so.
And that was one of the things, we have a slide later on. We are really trying to improve the looks of that, especially on the inside. But yes, if somebody wants to rent it out, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
I want to point out one gal here, and Laura's going to take this over and run with it. Okay. I've got to go back. Okay. This gal right here, it's this repository actually is back in this area, but I wanted to get a picture of Trinity in here. So you want to tell them about Trinity and the
Sure.
repository?
So Trinity is my daughter. We had an art contest. It was like a three-dimensional art contest. We didn't have a whole lot of people sign up for it. It was a pretty new thing. So, and I don't know if we will continue doing it. I think we're gonna try. But because it was minimal people that signed up, Trinity had said, I'll do it. And we have been talking about a drop box for retired flags that need to be disposed of. And so her idea for her 3D art was to decorate this box that looks kind of like a post office box drop for the post. So it makes it more visible by the front door at that address to drop off any flags that need to be retired. Because she was in that contest, she did get a prize for doing that, for participation from us. But she's very proud of this drop box.
It was nice also that was donated by Waypoint Bank. And then this is what Trinity then decorated for
Yeah,
us.
she then
So
decorated it.
if somebody has a flag that's, seen its better days, like,
So
after
if
the
it's
blizzard
tattered,
type of
or
thing,
if
do you have to have it folded to put it in there? No,
So
you can just
it
fold it
pulls
up
open.
however.
It pulls open in the front, just like your drop box
Okay,
even here at the library where you drop a book.
right.
And they just put the flags in there. We empty it whenever somebody's there, so it's pretty frequently emptied. And then usually, isn't it Flag Day, we do flag retirement. So the soldier or the veterans do a flag retirement. And it's a
At
little,
the VFW?
typically at the VFW or at another location where we have a burn barrel. It's it's considered to be a private event. When flags are retired, it is not meant to be a public ceremony.
Okay.
That's part of the respect of the flag being retired. So normally there's 3 to 4 people that partake in that. And it is announced in our newsletter that that is occurring, but it's not something that we have people spectating or
Right.
looking in on, so.
That's good to know, though. Had no idea about that.
And because of time, we'll probably zip through some of these. We have a number of those and so forth. But our VFW qualifications, there's really not a lot of qualifications in a sense. One, you have to have an honorable discharge to be in the VFW. And the second thing is you have to have what we call boots on the ground. You had to be in a combat zone, all right? Those are the two major things. And it's been known now that a lot of folks say they were in the service, but were never in the service. There's a lot of that going on, like everything else. So those have to be checked out. American Legion, pretty close to the VFW. The main thing there is that, one, you have served in the armed forces, and two, you have an honorable discharge. And that's where some of the controversy became between the two, is that I can be a part of the American Legion, and I can be part of VFW. A friend of mine who served basically stateside or in Germany, he can't be in the VFW. He can join the American Legion. And that has caused a rift, and we've been working hard.
Oh,
to
was he serving in Germany during the Vietnam
Not-
War? Is that the?
He was not in a combat
He's not in
zone.
a
Oh,
combat
combat zone.
And so we've had issues over that, and some of the members that are no longer with us were very upset about that, and but that was the rule that was set up and so forth. But right now, we are working hard, meetings together, that, hey, folks, we're here to service our veterans. Whether you're VFW, American Legion, you want to be part of the auxiliary, either one, please, we want you aboard, all right? Their building is in Indianapolis and so forth, and they were founded right after basically World War I. And that was also about the same time that the auxiliary came into existence as well. And a lot of names had changed over the years, but that's how, in a sense, they have their start at that point, way back when. And the auxiliary, like we said, started about the same time at the end of World War I. 1919, 1914, I think. I'm not for sure on the starting date for the auxiliary. But basically, folks, we are a partner with the auxiliary and auxiliary with the VFW. If it wasn't for the auxiliary, we wouldn't get a lot of things done. So we were really trying to, and the auxiliary really works well, I think, on the family and trying to get families in and reaching out and so forth. And I think, they do a whole lot better job than we do as quote, members and so forth. Their headquarters is also in Kansas City, and I think it's on the 10th floor, if I remember when I read that and so forth. But again, it's there to serve the families, celebrate the veterans, recognize the veterans and so forth. And do you want to mention anything else about? I got some more slides, but.
Here locally, like the VFW auxiliary, obviously we're a branch off of the VFW. Not really with Legion, but like you said, we work all together. We hold our meetings at the same time. So Legion, VFW, auxiliary, all together. And our requirements for auxiliary, it's kind of frustrating to us as well, because just because you're a family member of a veteran doesn't mean you're eligible to be in the auxiliary. It follows the same guidelines, has to be combat zone related. But if you had a veteran in the family that is World War II, be in a combat zone, that makes you eligible. And they've limited like grandparent, spouse, child, and there's only so far they go back. And I believe just recently they added adopted and step. So before that wasn't an option, and so there was a lot of kids that were a stepchild. Their step parent was a combat veteran, and the regulations didn't allow them to be an auxiliary member because they weren't the biological child. We got that changed. So we are actively working. We have to keep in mind that when these were founded, these organizations were way back, and the standards then were a lot different. So there are things that we are pushing to update. It's no longer the ladies auxiliary. It used to be ladies auxiliary. It is open to male, female, everybody. And actually, we really appreciate males coming in because honestly, things we help with are putting in bricks, mowing, painting, construction stuff. And here's us girls over there like, would you like a water? I mean, we really appreciate the help that anybody that's eligible to join.
Like I said, the VFW and the auxiliary work hand in glove and so forth. Their objectives and ours are really are the same, right? And the thing we kind of want to point out, we're 3 in 1. The auxiliary, VFW, and the American Legion. We're 3 with one thing, and I really kind of want to point that part out of here. Is there are 3 of us is to continue to promote, recognize, and assist to the best of our ability those that have served in uniform. And we just added, as you probably know, the new branch of the service there, the Space Force. So
But National Guard isn't part of that?
It is.
Is
part
that
of the Army.
Army? Okay.
Just like the Marines and the Navy, they're the same way. People don't think of a Marine sometimes as Navy. Yes, it is. Right?
It falls under the branches, but
Actually, you said that, and I was like, you know what? My cousin's son is part of the Space Force.
Oh, okay. And since it's new, we're still kind of working out the bug. Probably because we have no one around here but they'd be definitely welcome. And these are all of our objectives. Whether you're whatever of one of the 3, these are what we are saying. This is what our objectives are. And right offhand, I got to be up front. A lot of our military don't want to let us know what's going on. It's sometimes they don't they could need help, but they don't want to ask for it. We have come across veterans that have been hauling water for a couple of years in Cozad, never said a word.
Hauling water?
Never, yeah.
like they don't have running water in their house.
Plumbing in their house. And sometimes they just don't want to ask for help and assistance, but that's what we're trying to do is reach out. And that's, I think, the last few years, we've been trying to really branch out and let people know what we're here for. And I think this is another area too, probably the widows and so forth, we always don't know unless they've been part of the VFW. We don't know if they've been in the service or whatever. So hopefully things like this will help us reach out to other folks and so forth. But we do think with other communities as well. But the thing is, you can have objectives, but the thing is, you got to put it into action. There's a little old saying that there are three frogs in a log. 2 decide to jump off. How many frogs are on a log? 3. Just because you decide to do something doesn't mean you did it or doing it. And that's kind of what we're saying. Okay, these are our objectives. Now we got to put into action. So the next section is the present. We did the past, now we're doing the present. And again, because of time, we will probably run through these very quickly. One of the first ones I just want to point out is these are just some of, I'm going to skip through this slide right off the bat, but these are some of the things that we are doing. And I don't know why that thing keeps on going on.
You'll see us out in the community doing things such as your Veterans Day program, Memorial Day programs, wreaths across America, putting out flags at the cemetery, just general fundraisers. We did the trunk or treat, like the community trick-or-treating downtown, doing games for the kids, just trying to be out there in the community so that people know that we exist mostly, is the goal right now. Like he was saying, putting things into action, we really need to do that, but to be able to put things into action, we have to have people to do that. And so that's why we're looking membership. You're eligible. And And that doesn't mean that if you are not physically able to do something that you can't contribute. Like I said, you could come out to the flags being put up and hand out a water. You could be there and say, your moral support. Good job. You know, it's just having people there is great.
One of the things that we do, we have a relief fund. You will see people selling poppies and so forth, especially around Veterans Day. Folks, any money that we get from the poppy sale goes into a relief fund. And that relief fund is to help out veterans, whatever, you know,
Are
we don't
poppy
have a
sales
lot.
at Veterans Day or are they Memorial Day?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll put them out anytime we possibly can.
It's mostly around Memorial. We do it at Veterans, and we can do it at other times throughout the year. It's just getting them out there.
The other thing we do, we offer a $1,000 scholarship to an individual. We have a form they fill out, and I'll be upfront. What's really neat about that is that one of the questions is, how do you relate with a person in your family as a veteran? And they write an article about that. And I tell you what, what the kids write can be very, very touching. They actually are sitting down with grandma, or something like that nature, talking about their time in the service. And it draws them together. But the kids, I think, come away just, you know, so glad they did that type of activity.
Mm-hmm. And it's really neat to read them.
We
And it's
also
hard
do
to
things,
decide.
high school, we had the Voice of Democracy, which is across the state and the nation and so forth. And this last year, this was their essay they had to write out. Is America Today Our Forefathers' Vision? And so these are your top 3 winners and this year. But again, sometimes you worry about the youth today, but when you read their articles, you feel that, you know, God, these kids are good. You know, good kids, you know. Sometimes the thing is, where do the kids get it? They get it from their parents, all right? Another fun thing we do with the elementary, putting action that contact. The school's been great for us. High fives. Auxiliary and veterans and so forth meet in the hallway. The kids come in, give us high five, blah, 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 and so forth. And we give them the fist bumps and so forth. Then we walk with them in the gym and so on. But just make that contact between a youngster and a person in uniform and so forth. That's fun.
And the flag that we do, the big flag at sporting events, that's fun too.
Yeah. And this is, again, they put on a great Veterans Day program at the elementary. If you have any time to do so, again, we always appreciate it, but that just tells you what the community does and helps out veterans in our school system. This is kind of a fun thing. We visit with seniors. Thanks to Kyle Vincent, teaches at the high school. There's a panel of 6 or so individuals, both Legion, VFW, and so forth. And we just talk, and hopefully they'll ask questions, but rarely do they do. But we just want to let them know about our experiences. We stay away from the conflict and the combat thing. Yes, will come up, but that's not why we're there. When you get these veterans together, they start talking story. You get veterans with somebody else who's not been in the service, they don't tend to talk as much about their experiences. But you get these old geezers together, I tell you, and they're up there kind of on a stage, and all of a sudden they're not even aware of the kids out there. Oh yeah, did you do that? Did you do this? And so forth. Out of that comes the stories that kids get to hear.
Story.
Yeah, it's great, you know?
Does Kyle ever videotape you talking?
I don't.
And I say that because we have a video here at the library of Charlie Melodic and his time all over the Pacific Theater during World War II. And it's really interesting. And I think,
I
gosh,
didn't even know Charlie Melodic was in that.
yeah,
Right,
and he has a
Pacific.
special for crossing the equator so many
Oh, yeah.
times. But
Isn't
I
that
just
so
started
cool?
thinking about that. I'm like, I'm hoping somebody's videotaping
Mhm.
you all talking because those stories go away.
Oh, yeah,
And
they will disappear.
What I have found from talking to different veterans is a lot of times veterans don't like to talk about the stories, but they are important stories.
And this is the thing, we get done, we ask them how many are looking at the, considering the military. We're lucky during like a senior class, maybe one or two might raise their hand, they might, otherwise, no. But we try to tell them there are a lot of, just because you wear a uniform doesn't mean you're carrying a weapon or a M60 or an M1 or M16. Yeah, no, you need very smart people that know how to run drones, you know. One thing we leave them with this on, it's really a thing, every one of the veterans that are there, all will say to the kids, even though with all the troubles that we have in this country, all the issues we face, this is still the best country in the world to live. And, you know, we try to emphasize that to those youngsters. Middle school, we do a Voice of Democracy. Same type of thing. We have a contest today. This last year was My Voice in American Democracy, and they would write an essay. And then these are the winners from this last year. We bring them to a veterans supper and give them a meal with their parents and so forth, and have them read their essay to the veterans and so forth. And that's been really a lot of fun.
And that night we covered the meals for all the veterans.
Yeah.
At that event, plus the winners and their families.
And Laura mentioned about the field flag and so forth. And we get done at Lexington and Gothenburg, we've done it. And of course, Cozad, we've done it and so forth. We meet by the track and so forth and put out the field flag for the opening ceremony, usually football, but we did it in basketball this year as well. So we just started getting that connection. This is a very super project by the auxiliary. The picture doesn't do it justice, because if you ever have a chance, I guess I shall let you take that over. It's beautiful site at the cemetery.
So our cemetery here in Cozad is the only one that I do. I know there's other ones in the area, and people have asked about us putting flags out there. And I know that there are flags out, but we're not the ones putting them out yet. With that being said, I have over 400 and some flags last year to put out. And I normally, in years past, we've had Boy Scouts come out.
I was gonna say, I remember doing it with Boy Scouts.
But I can't remember if last year they did. This last one, they were not able to. And so we kind of scramble all the time to try to find people to help with this. But basically, I have a list, and that list has to be kept up to date on who is out there. And unfortunately, with just me doing that, it's a little rough. This entails going through all of the obituaries that come out from the local.
The city doesn't put down if they were a veteran.
They don't have a location. So the obituaries will say whether it's a veteran, and then I have to go out and walk and find their location. So Dawson County is working on a new program for the Find My Grave. It is GPS locations of those. And they did get those mapped out, but I guess the program is not quite where it needs to be quite yet. But basically I just have spreadsheets and I hand out clipboards, and you get a section and a handful of flags and you put them out, and it's a great event for kids to come help because they can run across there and get those out in no time, and we can get that whole cemetery done in maybe an hour. We don't have young youths there, and we have us old fogies that can take 4 to 6 hours. So it makes a difference.
That's why she was mentioning about membership. That's why it would really be helpful.
And then we pick them up as well. And then after they're picked up, anything that's tattered, broken, I have to go through and either repair it or determine what we need to replace. And again, there's cost to that. So those flags usually run around, I think it was $12 a piece.
Yeah.
So we just recently did get some donations, and the Legion helped with buying some of those flags. So we do have a new round, which is awesome.
This is just a photo that's inside of these of the honor guard, and that is those individuals when a veteran passes away, and we would go to Fort McPherson, the local cemeteries and so forth, and then give them military rights and honors and so forth. I was going to tell you a story about it, but I think in time I'll have to I'll have to pass that back. but-
I do want to point out something really quick on this. I'm very, very proud of Cozad's Honor Guard. One of the biggest things right now is the cost of these uniforms that they wear, around $800 a uniform. And they volunteer to come out and do this. It's all volunteer. So they get this uniform and they go, if you look at the Honor Guard through VFW nationwide, there's a lot of Honor Guards. However, not all of them have uniforms. And so when these gentlemen show up at a funeral to honor a veteran and they're in uniform, it's awesome. And so just to point that out, sometimes we'll get volunteers that will have a uniform and then we don't ever see it again. So it's just, it is a cost, but I'm very proud that we do have that because it looks amazing when we do these ceremonies to have that professionalism and that level of
It's not that
respect.
we're biased, that we look good in those uniforms and we do everything.
It is
You do,
very,
like,
Not that we're
it
biased.
is very respectful.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
And it is amazing. I'm very proud of the Honor Guard for what they do.
You guys do parades too.
Very quickly here, we'd like to recognize the staff as well. And these are past and present winners of the Teacher of the Year recognition. And just like in the Voice of Democracy, we hope that they can go on to state competition and hopefully someday we may get a national competitor at that point. Fort McPherson, we do a number of activities out of Fort McPherson. A couple of years ago, they need a lot of repair and cleaning. And the one on the left rather, we work with arboretors? Yeah. And we just follow them around like little guinea pigs, I guess. Because they knew what they had to get cut down and so forth. And we were gophers, I guess, just carrying all the brush and so forth. But it was just fun to work with those guys. And we really cleared out Fort McPherson, that dead brush and so on. On the one on the right is called Wreaths Across America. This is a nationwide project. And we put out last year, let's put it that way, 6,000 wreaths on, against the stone here.
At Fort
Fort McPherson.
McPherson.
So every year, it's usually around December 16th. I believe it's the same date every year, really close to that.
And I
So
think
rain, shine, snow, blizzard, we're there. But it's Wreaths Across America is an organization in itself that they can donate. But we go assist with putting out all those wreaths, the local
And
VFW.
isn't there about 11,000 graves out there now?
There's
At
a
Fort
lot.
McPherson, there's 11,000.
There's a lot.
And you put out
Could be more.
6,000 wreaths.
Yeah,
And they're short wreaths
we're
every year.
short. And I could be wrong on that.
Are you short because that's just all the money, you buy what there's
So
money
Wreaths
for?
Across America is all donation based, and then there are people that they can purchase wreaths for specific graves. So like family members could do that. But then also donations come in and it buys so many wreaths, and however many are designated for that cemetery is what goes there.
And a major project we have is in Veterans Memorial Park during Memorial Day. And ways that families can recognize their loved one or a veteran. Basically, they can have their name put on the monument. Unfortunately, you have to be a past veteran, both for the monument as well as for the Avenue of Flags. But basically, again, you need to have an honorable discharge and so forth. And right offhand now, we have on the 667 names are on the various pillars throughout the park. And we'll have a booklet this year for people to pick up that will show by name what pillar they're on, what side of the pillar they're going to be on, and then we have another part of it that says this is where, by looking at the booklet, you will see their name in order, so you'll be able to find their loved one's name pretty quickly. The other one this is I had to put this one in. We got to add all the flags up and so forth. It was the next morning, we're walking through the park, double checking, and I came across a couple that was off to the right. And I noticed there was a little car pickup there. And there's nobody else around, so I just wondered what this is. You don't know about this? It's says, well, yeah, we put a car like that on Johnny's memorial pillar every year, hoping that a kid will come by and pick it up and have fun and play with the toy, because Johnny was a gearhead type of car nut, and he wanted kids to have, because he had lots of these toys. So I'm gonna wait and see what happens next year for that, but that was Johnny Randall, and his neighbors are about right up into here. Okay. All right. Lori, am I doing something?
I don't
wrong with
know. I've never seen that.
this? Okay, this is also Memorial Day, annual flags. And again, you have to be deceased, the person must be deceased, honorable discharge, and then we want to know where they served overseas, and their military service in terms of Army, Navy, Air Force, and so on. But it's a money-making project for us, and we have, I think, 337 flags in the park as of last year.
Is that as many as you can have, or are there spaces for people to still buy flags?
Well,
So we hear this every year, people saying, I came through there and I can't find my loved one's flag. There's only so many holes in that park. And so in the past, we have rotated. So if it was out there one year, the older ones would not be, it rotates out. So we could be every other year.
So there's
But we hear,
337.
but that was a complaint we heard a lot. So the year before, we did get placement of more posts, more holes, which entailed us, VFW and auxiliary, going out and digging those holes, put those posts in. At that given point, we should have had enough holes and posts to put all the flags out. However, once we went out and put the flags out, we still had a handful that they had nowhere to go. So we were looking at where to expand. There's a space issue because we only have so much space there at the park. It then was discussed, we put in 37 holes around the VFW building. So there are flags now flown at the VFW post, and all flags were put out last year, and we actually had 3 or 4 openings. So yes, it's an ongoing thing. We want more flags. It's just we are trying to discover where we are putting those, and how we would do that rotation, because we, by no means, we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. We want those to be out there. He said that is money that came into us for those flags to be flown. We hear you. We know that. We're working towards it. The other benefit of those 37 flags at the post is we can put flags out for other holidays. So we can put flags for Flag Day. We discussed
Armistice Day, of course, Memorial Day, yeah, we got some coming up.
some of the Vietnam War Memorial
Pearl
Day,
Harbor Day.
law enforcement Memorial Day, like things where it would be a military related thing. This entails us going out there that morning, putting those 37 flags up, and then usually that evening or the next day, depending on what it is, we take them back down. But it gave us that opportunity to have flags flying other times rather than just at Memorial Day time.
Yeah.
And it also gave us the opportunity to get all of the flags out last year, which is amazing.
It always looks so nice.
This one is a way we can honor a vet that's living, and our commander came up with this idea of having an honor brick, and so now we can have a person's name engraved on an honor. If you're going to put a person's name on, then we have to have a DD 214 that said that you honorably served. But if you want to put a unit name on there, you want to, let's say, put your company, maybe there was a hoorah, if you were in the Marines, and that type of thing, then you wouldn't have to have a DD 214. I guess the point I get across, if you know somebody is a veteran or a family of a veteran, make sure they tell them, whatever you do, hold on to that form, because you need it for so many different things and so on. But you have some options in terms of what you want to put on it and that type of thing. All right, and I think we're going to be wrapping up here somewhat soon here.
Just a note on that DD 214, like he was saying, telling family members, that's very, very important. With our current privacy laws and restrictions there, that form is required for a lot of different aids for families. So just because you aren't a veteran, if your family member was, there is things out there to help if you are needing help. There's organizations you can join, like us, to be like there's other organizations, veteran-based things. They all require that DUD 214.
I think of there's an insurance company, right?
And you can get,
if you were a child or somebody of a veteran.
yeah, insurances, there's all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if that person's deceased and you don't have that form, you can get it, but it's gonna be a hassle.
And
We've
if
had
you're
to deal with that.
unlucky and the fire that destroyed hundreds and thousands of records didn't have computers to hold back on, they're gone. So like Laura said, you're in a mess.
Yeah, and like the Veterans Office in Dawson County, they can help a lot of times with getting those forms. So sometimes the veteran himself doesn't even have it, they lost it. They can help get copies of it.
We're gonna just wrap up a little bit about what we're looking at, what we need to do in the future, or what lies ahead of us. And first of all, it was nice because we were able to get a youngster this year to be in American Legion to go to Boys State. Didn't have any girls.
I went to
but
Girls
At least we
State.
have a boy.
Yeah, I went
It's
to
been a
Girls
while.
State way back
You were,
with
congratulations.
Lexington.
No, that's great. And so now we can be represented there as well. Well, I don't know. I might just have to go with this and see what happens. We have to put it in, folks. Someday we're going to have an open house. Someday we're going to have an open house, but this is what it looks like now. It doesn't look pretty. We're starting on it right now, but we don't have the funds, so we can only do so much at a time. But we are starting now. When you say about, will people rent it? Well, it's kind of hard to have somebody come in and look at that and say, oh boy, that'd be a nice place to go. Right?
If you like retro.
We are remodeling that, but it's gonna take us years, okay? All right?
Our main room though is updated. We did complete that.
Yeah,
The
we're-
main room is completely updated.
Yeah.
And the
And
bathroom is just
pretty
about done.
close, yes.
And
pretty
it's
close.
handicap accessible.
And handicap, yep. Again, Laura pointed out earlier, that flag box, we burned between 250 and 300 flags. I mean, for a small community, that's pretty good. And that's what the repository box is. This one is just, we have May 25th at 4 o'clock. If you're not doing anything, we really can use help. There is labor shortage in putting up those 300 and some flags, the poles and so forth. And that just will be coming up there pretty soon.
Have you ever reached out to like student council or honor society or any groups at school for, as far as community service?
Out of school and so forth, so that's one of the issues we face there.
We have contacted.
You can go ahead,
church
Laura,
groups
we'll
and
just kind of wrap it up here. And this is one Laura had pointed out too, though, we have coming up on March 29th, National Vietnam Veterans Day, Peace Officers Memorial Day, Armed Forces Day. Those are ones that's coming up here pretty recently. And as she pointed out, we can now honor those days at the post because now we have 37 flags that we can put up on a day and take them down in that day. So that's a good positive. This is something we just brought up at the last meeting. Just that if we could find some way to do this, you probably all have heard of the white table and so forth.
We actually did a program here at the library on that. It's
Yeah.
been a long time,
Yeah.
about 10 years.
But that's kind of a nice thing. You know the background, but basically it's our missing in action or POWs. Basically, it's an empty chair. That person who should be there is not. And there's salt on the plate representing the tear. There's a rose and a flower that represent the blood and the loyal, the love that for that veteran. There's a black napkin represents it. You have a glass turned over upside down because they're not there to toast. There's a candle and so forth. So it's kind of a nice
Remembrance.
remembrance of those who are still missing in action.
But I think it's also just a poignant reminder, so it's remembrance, but that all those things mean
different things too, because a lot of people don't know the meanings.
And
behind
if there's
those.
any companies in the area that are interested in having one of those tables set up, reach out to the VFW or auxiliary, which could
So
be.
that would be a real good thing.
Yeah.
We would have it all ready for anybody who wants it.
Mhm.
Well, we can
Okay.
definitely put it at the library, you know, in the main
Okay.
area.
Mhm. Okay, Lori, we'll get you, all right. And the biggest issue, and this is what Lori mentioned earlier in the program, the whole thing, we want you, and I know I'm talking to the choir here, but we can't do things if we don't have the man and woman power to do so. There are so many things we'd like to do, but if we don't get the people there, we're gonna be burnt out. So that's a key that we need in the future more. And just a couple more, Lori, would you go to the next one there? We want to thank a lot of the folks. Man, these people have helped us out. Just the donations from the community, every once in a while get that. Give Big Red, I think we picked up, what, $1,200, I think, Big Red this time.
That's how I found you.
Mhm.
We were sitting
Yeah.
at Big Red Day. Good, good.
Yep.
The Wilson Foundation, the local bank, Dairy Queen, gives individual donors, of course, and the Cozad Community Schools for allowing us to get into their school system. So basically, that's.
You've given us a lot of
Auxiliary
information.
And the American Legion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jose, do you have any questions?
I did, but you actually asked them for me, so I'm all good on my end.
Our meetings are on the second Monday of every month at 7:00 at that post building
On N Street.
Mhm.
Okay.
So if anybody is interested in just seeing what it's about or even seeing the building, stop by, visit. I try to have snacks there, but it's usually me and I have to work. So
Well,
it
thank
might
you
be like a
guys
sunny
for
snack,
coming.
but we'll have
Well,
stuff
thank you,
there.
Lori, for
Very
allowing us to
much.
do so.
You gave us a lot to think about,
Yeah.
a lot of great information, so.
I'm gonna tell you one little story, and Laura probably knows it better than I do. We were at not me, but our honor guard was doing services for this veteran. And they're by the grave site there, and they're off to the side. And, you know, it's basically a 21 gun salute. You fire 3 rounds, 7, and so forth. There's an elderly lady that's there and did not realize, you know, the sound of live ammo being fired. And so they go and they fire. She is shot and faints. And the little kid starts crying and said, "They shot grandma, they shot grandma." I wish I was there, I wasn't, but they swear that happened.
Well, they did the salute, the honor guard did a salute for my uncle when he passed away, and it is, I mean, it wasn't here in Cozad, but it is very,
And then the playing the taps.
Moving.
very moving, and they played the taps, and we did all kind of chuckle because we didn't realize that there are trumpets now that just have the recording in there, so you just press a button and it plays, and, but it was very moving. My point is that the live ammunition, I've been around my dad, you know, duck hunting and things like that, so I know what a gun sounds like, but boy, when they all go off at once,
If we do it right.
yeah.
Yeah, if we do it right. Well, again, thanks, folks.
Yes.
Thank you.